Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. I'd like to welcome everybody here today on this actually pretty nice August day. We had some nice weather here lately. Thanks everybody for attending this webinar in a series of webinars on hospitality and restaurant business development. My name is Jim Johnson. I'm with the South Carolina Small Business Development Center, and going to tell you a little bit more about SBDC, just to, if we have anybody new on the call and doesn't know about your SBDCs, I'll give you a little bit more information there. But I wanted to make sure that I first, went over the topic today, which is restaurant marketing with local foods. So we have with us today nsley Turnblad with the Department of Agriculture, which I'll do a little bit more extensive introduction later. She's going to talk to us about an awesome program at the Department of Ag called Fresh on the Menu and Certified SC, which are two great tools that farmers and restaurateurs can use to benefit their businesses. The restaurant marketing with local foods, the topic, we kind of came up with this topic to present with the idea. It's part of a hospitality series. And we wanted to really focus and key in on local foods because local foods is a trend these days, which we'll talk a little bit more about. And my office at the SBDC, we work with a lot of farmers, a lot of food entrepreneurs, and we just have a good background and interest in local foods. So I wanted to bring this topic and share it with everybody. And thought it would be a good program. So I'll move ahead here, and there we go. All right, so this is me. I'm the region director of the SBDC in the Orangeburg office, which is located at South Carolina State University. A little bit about my background. I was in small business for actually I'm still in small business. But I had a medical supply company for almost 18 years, which was a really good business to be in. So good that I also owned a restaurant for 7 years concurrently. So I have a lot of food background, a lot of small business background. I still own a business today. It's a property management business. I've had that business for over 21 years. And so have a pretty varied background as far as that goes. I have been working at the Small Business Development Center for about 6 years, which, if you haven't heard of SBDCs, it's basically confidential, no charge, one-on-one consulting. Our program is funded by the Small Business Administration. It's an SBA program. And we do educational outreach in addition to business consulting, and it's all free. And another big part of what we do is really connecting people with other resources. So I do a lot of work in networking into the different industries to understand what's going on and who is doing what. For instance, today when we talk to Ms. Turnblad, you'll find out about Fresh on the Menu and other Department of Ag programs. What we like to do is know as much as we can about these programs. So then when we come across clients and consultants, we can share that information and get you over to those resources. So that's a little bit about the SBDC. You can find an office. There's 21 offices in South Carolina. We have over 50 consultants. There's probably one near you that you can find and get some assistance in anything from marketing, funding, accounting, and other specialty areas. So let's get to the presentation for today. I've got kind of 3 parts that we'll go through. The first is, why local foods? If you are a restaurant or a food entrepreneur, have a food business, and you're considering using local foods in your business, I think it's a good idea. And so we're going to go over that. The second, we'll introduce nsley Turnblad, and she will talk a little bit about Fresh on the Menu. And then I'm going to end it with a section on procurement and marketing of local food. So why local foods? So you may have heard the term locavore. It's a person whose diet consists of only or principally locally grown and produced food. So someone who's a big advocate of eating local might be termed a locavore. So I believe we've had more locavores lately. And I think there's a lot more awareness around where your food comes from, especially since COVID. I think COVID put a heightened awareness or sense of, where your food comes, especially when there were certain times where food looked a little scarce or food prices started to go up. And there was just more of an interest in, over a pandemic, what's our food system like? Am I still going to be able to get food? Where does it come from? And it makes you really start to think about your food. And I think that's really one of the driving forces behind folks choosing to eat locally or choosing to eat locally grown food, and restaurants choosing to serve locally grown food. So I pulled this off of the Food and Wine website under some of the biggest trends for 2021, according to chefs. There's actually 21 of them. And this was one of them, even more local. So local food has been a trend for quite some time. There's a couple of chefs, got some quotes here about one chef supporting his local quail guy, and another saying that communities will go to the extra effort to support local businesses and put more money back into the communities. So those just highlight that highlights, some of the benefits of, selling locally grown produce. You're actually, supporting local at the same time, because you're supporting that farmer or that fisherman or that, rancher. So when you do that, it's kind of like an economic circle, coming back to help the community in general. A lot of good reasons to do it as a business and to do it as a consumer as well. So what are some other trends or statistics about local food? This one on the left here, it says what's hot. That's a 2016 culinary forecast from the Restaurant Association. It's pretty much filled with local trends. Number one, it was locally sourced meats and seafood as a hot trend. So if it was trending in 16, you would think it would come to fruition or start to be coming to fruition in, the years following 2016, which, it continues to be a trend, continues to be something folks focus on. Also under 3, you got locally grown produce, hyper local sourcing. The USDA defines local as within 250 miles. Hyper local would probably be more, more within 30 to 60 miles. So that's like something that's really local to you, or maybe even the same town, right? Or the same county. So just the focus, so you can see the focus on locally grown has been there for a while. The latest report that I pulled out for the 2020 trends, while this is the top 10, and it doesn't mention local per se, mainly because, there was such a big focus, I think, on COVID and the pandemic, that the trends kind of pivot a little bit towards alternate methods of delivering, your food to the consumer. So you probably see from this list here, things such as off-premises takes precedence, right? That's definitely COVID driven. Bundle meals, consider deals, meal kits make cooking fun, right? Meal kits is probably more, and meal subscriptions probably more driven from the pandemic. Not to say that those aren't trends that could have been done pre-pandemic, but I think they were heightened. Selling groceries. I mean, a lot of folks probably never even thought about that. But I guess I highlight these because these trends can be coupled with local food or local produce. For instance, selling groceries. I have a client in Colombia who has a restaurant, and he also has a farmer's market adjacent to his restaurant. So it's called Noma Bistro. and Noma Bistro is on North Main, just above Elmwood. So if you're ever in that neck of the woods, stop in and see Muhammad. He actually has a farmer's market connected to the restaurant, and it's pretty nice. He built it. And he serves in his farmer's market. He has local foods, specialty goods, but he also has produce and other things like that, plants and whatnot. But that was an example of him diversifying, using locally grown materials and selling it with the restaurant as a supplement to the restaurant. So, I mean, even with these methods, you could probably use locally grown food to kind of highlight or differentiate, how those methods are implemented. I'll also mention the meal subscription, in agriculture, CSAs or food boxes have been popular for a long time. The same could be done, with restaurants and kitchens, and to spice things up, when you're doing a meal kit or a meal subscription, throwing in local food, could really make the difference in the box. Anyway, just wanted to kind of highlight that there is a lot of discussion still about local food in the restaurant industry, and a lot of interest, and I think a lot of opportunity for restaurants to really increase sales, increase their value proposition to their customer, and just become better businesses by incorporating local foods. So wanted to talk a little bit more about this, and first shift over to a great resource called Fresh on the Menu. So I'd like to introduce to you nsley Turnblad. Nsley works for the South Carolina Department of Agriculture and in several programs. I'll let her explain exactly what she does, and then ask if she can talk about a few of the programs. Nsley?
Absolutely. All right, good deal. Everybody hear me okay? Am I not on mute? Yeah. Thanks, Jim. Yes, I'm with the South Carolina Department of Agriculture, and have been for the past 15 years now, which sounds, makes me sound really old, but anyway, I come from a farm background, in Jim's neck of the woods. My family actually farms in Orangeburg and Calhoun County. So not only do I promote agriculture all day, every day, I get to go home and live it too. So it's a great job, a great place to work. And I'm very lucky that I get to work with farmers and chefs. And like Jim, I like to connect farmers and chefs together, especially when it comes to a chef trying to find something specific, or looking for a special something, and being able to put them in touch with the farmer that I know would be a great fit for them. So 2 programs that we've had at Department of Agriculture that I've worked with since the beginning. Certified SE Grown is our primary program. We have over 2,000 members. It was launched in 2007. And so that program continues to grow. And so we just actually kicked off or launched a new website, or refreshed our website with a new just kind of look and feel. And we have all of our members listed there. And, a big thing that is a great resource for chefs is our what's in season tab, which shows you by month what we have available in South Carolina, not just produce, but we try and list all of this list actually that Jim's showing you right now is just produce, but we also have all the proteins listed there, seafood, all the categories in agriculture that qualify for the certified program. So not just limited to produce. So we also have I guess in addition, in 2008, early 2009, we launched our Fresh on the Menu program, which is kind of we had so much interest in folks wanting to source local, and how could we incorporate those restaurants that were doing a great job supporting our local farmers. And so Fresh on the Menu was developed, and it's has about 230 members. And it's also free to join for restaurants. And, the main goal with Fresh on the Menu is that we ask chefs, restaurants to commit 25% or more of local ingredients on their menus when in season. And again, that's not just limited to produce. A lot of the proteins, rice, any kind of specialty food item, all that would qualify under the 25%. So of course, obviously in the summertime, it's easier to find, to meet and exceed that 25%. Sometimes in January, it's not so much, but the main thing we're looking for with our restaurants that participate in Fresh on the Menu are those that are committed to sourcing local and are committed to buy in and communicating that message to their customers as well. So out of that program, we have another program that we partner with the South Carolina Department of Tourism, Parks, Recreation, and Tourism, Discover SC, and it's called the Chef Ambassador Program. And so that program has grown significantly. I think we have about 200. Stay on that page, Jeff, for a second there, because this is a great resource for chefs. This is part of our new. I'm going to switch gears for a second on this page with the featured chefs. On the right side, where you see the chef resources and wholesalers and broadliners, those are all the folks we also work with. We really tried on this website when we refreshed it as well this year to provide those resources to chefs that not only can you buy from, the local farmer, or your neighbor, but you can also buy from the wholesalers. You can also buy from the broadliners. So everyone from the biggest to the smallest, we want to make sure that chefs know that there's an opportunity everywhere in between. So just depending on how your restaurant business is set up, what kind of volume you're doing, your flexibility in your menus, there's room for everyone. And so we understand that not everything works for everyone. And so we try really hard to provide all those resources that are out there. We also have a retail merchandiser, Katie Pfeiffer is her name. I know, Jim, you've worked with her a good bit in the past. If any of y'all been to the grower buyer mashup meeting, Katie is instrumental in her job is to focus on those retail outlets or those, whether it be grocery stores or food service companies, to really get more South Carolina produce and product into those outlets. So I know streamlining menus, is one of the trends Jim mentioned, and some of that sometimes, it might not be as in these days and times the easiest to buy from so many different folks, and you need to streamline that. So we try to make sure there's as much South Carolina produce in the distribution channel as possible. So my experience over the years, going back to the Chef Ambassador Program, we have 4 new Chef Ambassadors every year. And like I said, that's a partnership between the governor's office, tourism industry, and Department of Ag. And so that program has been going strong, and we're currently in the process of collecting nominations for our 2022 class. We take those chefs to places like the James Beard House in New York. We take them to different other, food and wine festivals. I think, Atlanta Food and Wine has been mentioned. We do special things for those chef ambassadors, and those are those chefs that really are the stars of South Carolina, and that they really embrace not only our culinary destinations, but also our South Carolina farmers. So if you're interested in that or know someone who's interested in that, I highly recommend learning more about that program. It is a time commitment. We do ask them to do a lot of events, and so sometimes it is taxing on the chef, but we hope that it's worth it in the end. So that's pretty much what, in a nutshell, what both those programs are all about. I had great admiration for both chefs and farmers. I think they're some of the hardest working people I've ever met. Both parties are very passionate about what they do and proud of their work, and I feel very lucky to work with both groups. So, Jim, was there anything else that I missed?
Yeah, I have a couple questions for you, Ansley.
Yeah.
One is, how do they, if they're interested in the ambassador program, how would they get more information on it?
Right now, email me. So we basically we put out a call for nominations. The tourism industry goes to their scatter partners. I don't know if you're familiar with their scatter partners, but each, whether it's their department of their chambers or the different tourist organizations. But so we split the program 50-50. So folks that are interested, the final decision on chef ambassadors is made by the governor. And so all we do, we collect nominations on those that we feel like would exemplify all the criteria. And I have an email that Jim I can share with you if you want to share with other folks.
Okay, that'd be good.
That talks about, they have to be a member of the Fresh on the Menu program. They have to be willing to commit the time to serve as a chef ambassador, and it's a 1-year term. They have to have a valid driver's license. We do run background checks, and so there's some criteria that has to be met. But I will send that to you shortly. But
Okay.
yes, we select usually 4 new ones every year.
Also, if a chef or restaurant owner wants to be a part of the Fresh on the Menu program, they would just probably come to the website and go to the join page here. And is there an application? Okay.
Yep. So there's on the left side, where it says download application here, filling that out, sending it in. One of the new things on this website, we're collecting pictures, images. We're living in a digital visual age these days, and so folks want to see, not only want to know about where the place is, but they want to see what it looks like before they get there. So we we have a component where we add images of the restaurant or dishes, so that pictures worth 1,000 words, and so we can add that capability. We also have a chef link, so we know that chefs move around, restaurants open and close, and so keeping up with the current database is also another thing we try and stay on top of. But it's great to be able, whenever these chefs, the relationships that we try to establish and build, they take those farmers with them when they move restaurants and expand from there. So
when they sign up, do they and they're accepted into the program, then they can use the I guess the marketing logo of Fresh on the Menu, and they subscription to a newsletter, whatever. What other types of benefits are there?
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. So not only do they get to take advantage of the multimedia, I'm trying to think how much money we spent this year, because we just filmed a new Fresh on the Menu commercial. So they get to take advantage of being associated with that. So I think it's shy of $500,000 that we spent on establishing a new commercial and running the new commercial statewide. And so they get to take advantage of that advertising promotion being associated with Fresh on the Menu. We have some signage available. We also have the newsletter that you mentioned. That is still in the works. We're working on that. There's limited resources, not of hours in the day sometimes to get all that done. But we like to provide all of our chefs or all of our restaurants with what's in season on a quarterly basis, just to keep top of mind awareness on what's going on. And then also, you have to be a Fresh on the Menu member to be considered as a chef ambassador candidate. And
Do y'all have an app? Do y'all still?
We used to.
Okay.
Used to,
I thought I remember y'all having an app before.
Yeah. I'll just leave it at that. We used to have one. Apps are hard to maintain and refresh, and so it was
I could imagine.
Yeah, and then you have the Android versus the iPhone and all the bugs that go along with apps and the operating systems. It kind of got to be a little bit.
Okay.
It was good in theory, a lot harder work on the back end than we anticipated. So all of our information is now on our website. And when we designed the new website, we made it very phone friendly, I guess. So when you look at it on your phone, it looks just as good as it does if you're on your desktop.
Okay, that's great. That's great. And these days we've got Google too. So that's like the first place everybody goes.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Google Maps or Apple Maps or whatever.
Right.
But,
yeah. So it's a 2-part process. We try to promote to the general public, which restaurants are part of our, committed to sourcing local. Then that list is also used to share with farmers, for those farmers that are interested in selling to restaurants. That way these farmers know that these restaurants are already interested in buying local. And then we also try to provide the restaurants that are members, the information, the tools, the resources that they need to keep supporting local. So we also do a lot of work with food and wine festivals, and to name a few, Euphoria is a big one that we participate in. So we sponsor a lot of those events, and the folks that are part of our Fresh on the Menu program get to take advantage of kind of coming under our umbrella for those types of events. Seaweed, the Wildlife Expo in Charleston is another one. Columbia Food and Wine Festival, Hilton Head has one, and so all those events we try to have a presence at, and our Fresh on the Menu members are the first ones that we go to for to be featured there. So,
well, great. I appreciate it, Ansley. This is great information. I think it's a very beneficial program.
yeah,
sure.
thank you.
Mm-hmm. And thank you for joining us. And I am going to transition now. And some of what I'm going to go over here is could be a little redundant as to what Ansley talked about, but no, that's fine, because as a teacher and instructor myself, it never hurts to say things twice or more than twice, because people the more you say things, it starts to really sink in. So it's repetition's good, actually, preferred. So the first part, I was splitting this up. I wanted to talk about procurement, and I wanted to talk about marketing. If you're going to buy local and serve local in a restaurant, then procurement is a big part of that. And Ansley has spoken a little bit about this, and you can see on the Certified SC website that they have tools and resources for identifying, wholesale distributors and broadliners and other folks that you can buy from. And the first thing I want to talk about were wholesalers, because if you're a restaurant, you're probably already buying from Cisco or US Foods, or maybe a produce specialist like Sin Brothers or Limehouse. So, that's kind of a place to start, right? I have plenty of restaurant clients who do not buy from any of these people. They go and just buy their stuff from smaller grocers and things like that, and bring it back. Or they go and actually, like we'll talk about a little bit later, they go to the farmer and source the local food. But if you do have a wholesaler, or you want to bring on a wholesaler, that's a great place to start, because most of them would have some type of buy local program. And I mentioned local list is the first thing. For instance, Sin Brothers, come spring season, they'll come out with a local list of all South Carolina grown products, and you can buy from that list, and it makes it really easy to make sure that you're sourcing locally. And Cisco works with FreshPoint to source local foods as well, so you can access that through a bigger company like Cisco. You just have to have a good relationship with your sales rep, right? So that your sales rep knows what you're trying to accomplish. What are the goals of your business? Have you decided to, implement local food in your menu? Then your sales rep needs to know that, first and foremost, so that he or she can tell you, what their local program is like. And then it's at the top of their mind, hopefully, if they ever come across any opportunities where, they can help you access the local food. So a couple other wholesalers that I mentioned here are the Grow Food Carolina, which is all local produce, and the South Carolina Food Hub Network. And I'll talk a little bit more about them in another slide. But Grow Food is in the Charleston market, and they buy directly from local farmers, and it's their mission to help local farmers be more sustainable, and to service those low country area restaurants and food entrepreneurs with local sourced food. So Grow Food Carolina, excellent organization. If you're in that area and they serve your area, I would give them a call. If you're working with a wholesaler, sometimes logistics can be a lot easier because they're coming to your restaurant sometimes daily, or at least as many times a week as you probably need them. So it's already coming in. Logistics can be easier. Your price is negotiated, in that the wholesaler probably already negotiated with the farmer, and a lot of time the wholesaler they're using, depending on the product they're buying, market prices to get a fair deal. So you wouldn't have to do any of that negotiation. Also, like Sin Brothers, Limehouse, and all these, they already have existing relationships with farmers. You don't have to go out and create these relationships. They've made the relationships. They know the farmers. They know the quality of their products, and those farmers know what Sin Brothers or Grow Food or Cisco expect. So those things you don't have to spend time educating or figuring out, right? And also, if you have a specific farmer in mind that they're not buying from, some of these wholesalers may coordinate with you to buy from that farmer, and they'll go to the farm and pick it up from the farmer, bring it back and deliver it to you, right? That is on a case-by-case basis, and it goes organization to organization as to whether they would do that. And the quality and capability of the farmer will have a lot to do with whether a wholesaler will deal with them or not. But if it's important enough to you and you're a good customer, that they could probably make some exceptions, but that would be a discussion with your sales rep or with whoever you deal with at the wholesaler. And also, outside of wholesalers, there are I call them truck farmers. Truck farmers are basically, they're kind of like, they may do a little farming themselves, or they may not do any farming, but what they do is go to the state farmers market, or they go to some type of market and pick up food, and then they resell it. So you may have a good truck farmer who could come by your restaurant, and you just tell them, hey, I'd like this or that from the farmers market, and they just run out there and pick it up and charge you a little premium for the delivery. So that might be another route, just to coordinating those pickups. So you got so when you get into buying local food, it can be a complex system of doing things, or it could be a little bit simpler, but just you need to research and understand what you have to do to procure these foods. And part of the reason the local foods are a little bit more expensive is because of the logistics and things like that that go into, and the little extra work that go into finding these products. I will say some of the benefits of buying local, hyper local, is that you will get the best freshness without a doubt, right? It's not going halfway across the country from California to here, put in the freezer, picked green, you name it. Could have been sitting in the warehouse for weeks before it got to you. Also, it's easier to buy, organic maybe, or things that don't need as many preservatives to keep it fresh, so it can get to you from 1,000 miles away. So that's huge. And there's an argument amongst farmers and some folks that more nutrients are retained in a local product than from one comes from thousands of miles away. You can get different varieties. You can get hosts of different varieties that you can't get from a broad line or a big produce farmer who may just specialize in one type of tomato, and that tomato is a good shippable tomato, and that's all they do. Locally you might can get 300 to 500 to 1,000 different varieties depending on what you want that farmer to grow. If you want a particular variety and they can grow it, they're able to grow it, then you can get them to grow it for you. They would love that, especially if they know how they have a captured audience to sell that particular product. So farmers do that all the time. They grow specific crops for specific restaurants or customers. And you can't do that, through a wholesaler or any of these other things. So those are just a couple of benefits of local farming, and why you should do it. The South Carolina Food Hub Network, I wanted to pop this map up there in this website, Food Hub Network, sc.com. Grow Food Carolina in the Low Country has been kind of the leader of the food hubs in the state, actually. It's a great organization. They have great capacity and can really service you just like a traditional wholesaler. There's been an effort to expand the capacity of local food, I guess, distribution points throughout the state. And as you can see on this map, there are about 7 hubs around the state. There's actually more now, I think, 1 or 2 more that have come online, one towards Augusta, Aiken. But all of these focus on, moving local produce, logistically to the market. So check out your local food hub here, go to the website, look that up, and might be a new connection for you as a restaurant to buy from them if they in fact sell to restaurants. Some do, some don't. They all have different specializations, but I would call and they may connect you with someone who does if they don't. So that was one way that you can get local food, right? So another way you can get local food is go to the farmer and buy it straight from the farmer. And I know a lot of chefs love to do this because they can get their hands on the product. They can see how it's grown. They can meet the farmer. They can, taste it. They can be out there. And a lot of being successful in a higher end restaurant or a restaurant that serves items that may cost a little bit more is telling that story as to why I'm paying more for this product, because it's local, right? Because it's fresher, because it's this, breed or variety, because it's, whatever the value proposition is. When you establish a relationship with the farmer, it allows the chef to be able to communicate this message to his customer. But working directly with a farmer there's a lot of variation from farmer to farmer in your experience with doing business with that particular farmer, because you may have a difficulty working with a farmer, or it may be the easiest thing you've ever done in your life working with a farmer and just the best experience in the world. So it's all across the board. So there's so many different types of farms and farmers and personalities that, you may have to go through several farmers before you find some good relationships that you want to retain and keep. Basically things to consider, when buying from farmers. You may need cash to buy from them. You do need to have an idea about what's in season. If you're a chef or in the restaurant business, you probably know your skill or trade pretty well. And this is kind of, you would think you would know, but not everyone does. So it'd just be good to know, what the season is and when are these things planted? When do they come out? What are the time, the timelines for them? I actually put a link to the certified SC website here under what's in the season. We just looked at that a little bit earlier. Great resource. There are actually crop planting calendars that you can pick up. I know Grow Food Carolina has one. There's some other entities that have them. I've seen I think the Department of Ag has put one out before as well. So you can know that, hey, tomatoes start coming out, in this month, in the spring. And that can vary too, because, some farmers have tools and equipment like high tunnels for season extension, that allow them to plant earlier. So their tomatoes might actually come out earlier. You just have to know that farmer and kind of know the idea of, how things are planted and grown and how long the season is. So I think most chefs have a really good idea of this, but, it's good to know. And then once you find a farmer that you're comfortable with and they communicate with you well, like you'd like, crop planning with that farmer is, one of the most beneficial things you can do. Because I mentioned before, you can ask a farmer to plant something for you, right? And then he's going to tell you, well, I'm going to have to plant it, maybe from this date to this date, I might get it in the ground, and this is about when it'll come up. And so, hey, let's think about, when your orders will come in and you'll receive them and all that. Of course, everything is, in approximations in planning. So you can't get, exact dates all the time, but you can get pretty close. But that's part of crop planning. What do you want? Or what is this farmer growing that you can kind of get on board with? And that farmer knows that you want it and can kind of plan around harvest. And, like for instance, let's just say okra. A farmer pretty much has to pick okra close to the date that they're going to sell it to you. You can't pick okra last week and store it for a whole week and then sell it, because okra has a very short, lifespan for freshness and, best use and things like that. Most farmers like to pick the okra and then just basically, sell it the next day or the same day within several days, right? Okra is a good example. Potatoes, on the other hand, a little different, right? Or other root crops, a little different. They can harvest those, hold them, in different ways. So that's the part of the crop planning though, and figuring out when it comes in. You need to know, if you're buying from a farmer, about size, quantities, packaging. You need to know what a half bushel is, or a bushel box, how many, items of peppers, how many peppers come in a half bushel box, right? Do you know? How much is a half bushel box? How much is a half bushel of squash? And is it fancy squash or is it medium squash? If you get a half bushel of medium squash, you may have 15 squash in there, or 20 squash. If you got fancy squash, you might have 42. So those are types of things you would need to know as a restaurateur. And a lot of different examples of different crops. They're all different. They all have different ways that they're packed and, graded and all that type of thing. And speak of grading, you know how to identify quality, which I think as a chef or restaurateur, if you're still learning, there's things to look out for, with particular crops and if they're good or if they're high quality or not. And that comes with experience, but it also comes with, learning skills and things like that. Ugly food can be fine. And sometimes you can buy ugly food as a chef or restaurateur, because you're going to cook it and people aren't going to see it. When you go to the grocery store, it has to be pretty because people go on looks and pick it off the shelf. But, if it's going as an ingredient in something else, as long as the quality is good and it's not ugly because, it's deteriorating or rotting, buy ugly food. You might get a discount because that farmer couldn't sell it at a market as quickly. So good look at that. You have to take food safety into consideration. It's a big focus these days with the Department of Agriculture and the USDA and the FDA. Farmers there's a variety of food safety practices used on farms, from a scale or a spectrum of not many to very high quality standards. So when you go to the farm, you're also keeping in mind their food safety practices. And that would be a question you would ask farmer. Are you covered by FSMA's produce safety laws and rules? And do you follow those practices, right? Are you GAP certified, good agricultural practices, or do you have any type of food safety certifications? If that farmer is not GAP certified or they don't have a particular certification, that doesn't mean that the quality of their produce is not the best there is. or that their safety standards are not the best. They just don't have the certification. I'm sure like 90% of farmers have really good practices and are really concerned about food safety because they're feeding people. But big consideration to ask and be concerned about, you know, if you visit the farm, you can kind of see how, you know, how they're doing things and how they take care of crops and other safety considerations. Ask questions, you know, farmers love to talk for the most part. And, you know, ask them questions, any kind of questions you have about food, about what they can plan, about what they can, you know, how they grow things, you know, whatever, you know, you should be curious and they should be able to answer questions for you as a part of developing that relationship. So try it, make sure that you get samples. And most farmers who are interested in selling to restaurants will definitely give you samples and let you try, because I mean, they're obviously trying to get business. So they're more than happy to grow new crops and let you test them out. A lot of farmers will let you do what you call a test site or a test plot. So one year they might grow, you know, a small plot of a experimental plant to see how well it grows in their soil, how easy it is for them to take care of, and if there's any demand or interest in it from buyers. They can always do a little small test plot of something for you to try. So that's something else that you can test out. And the last thing I kind of put in big caps is just build a relationship with your farmer. And I've talked a lot about produce, but as you can see in the picture below, you know, you've got proteins as well. From, you know, beef to pork to chicken. Y'all know that there's free range chickens, cage-free chickens, humanely treated facilities, all things that when you go out to the farm, you can actually see how the farmer takes care of the animal, see the conditions that the animals live in, know what the animal's eating, because you can see them, you know, walking around eating whatever they're eating. You know, it's great to actually be able to experience that and getting that connection. So building a relationship with your ranchers and with your farmers is extremely important. Another way to find farms, again, certified SC, I would go, there's a list of hundreds of farms out there that are certified SC grown. And also you can find farmers at your farmers market. A lot of newer farmers who are looking for, you know, looking to do business with restaurants, or they could be existing, have been doing it for a while. They'll be at the farmers market, and they will be, a lot of them will be more than happy to do business with you and likely have delivery services and all types of other things that they're doing in addition to the farmers market channel. So it's a good way to, you know, meet a lot of farmers, going to different farmers markets and just, you know, having a conversation. Of course, you come to the list, you might connect with some other farmers that don't do farmers markets, that just specialize in wholesale and maybe restaurants and things like that. There's plenty of them out there like that as well. So that's on the procurement side, right? And because procurement is important if you're going to go into selling local foods in your establishment. You got to know where to get them and how to get them. But the other part is, once you do buy that, you know, local pork or, you know, those tomatoes from that local farmer, you know, how does your customer know that this stuff is local, and how do they know about the story of this farmer? So marketing is very important. I'm not going to spend too much time on marketing. I have a couple interested pieces that I pulled out that are kind of like post-COVID. But I do want to go over the basic principles of marketing and how they might apply to local food. So there's something called the 4 Ps. It's a marketing mix. The 4 Ps of marketing. There's some theories of 7 Ps now, but I still kind of like the 4 Ps. That's what I learned. And the 7 P's are found within the 4 P's. Same way the product is the first P in marketing, and the product, is what you serve, what's on your menu, right? And not only what's on your menu, but the fact that what's on your menu is local. That's what, creates your product, and what's your presentation like, when it's plated, and, all those different things. So the fact that you have, or that you carry local products on your menu is a big part of your marketing plan, right? That's the product part of your marketing plan. So we could talk a lot about that. And I could talk for days probably just on the product. But this is more of an overview of the local foods, so we won't go too deep into it. The price is another marketing aspect of your business. And for instance, you could be a value type of restaurant or food establishment, like a quick service restaurant, QSR. So you're going to be on the low end, right? And your food is, costs a little bit less, but then so are the ingredients, probably not as good, right? Or you can be on the very high end, like a Michelin star restaurant, right? And of course, your price point there is going to be very high. So where do you fall in that positioning or that spectrum of your marketing? Are you going to be super high end, super low end, or somewhere in the middle? Most people fall somewhere in the middle, right? So with local food, you're going to probably be a little bit higher priced, just because you have to accommodate for the a little bit higher price of local items. But folks will pay for local food because there's a more of a value proposition, not just in taste, freshness, and things like that, but also the social value of it, helping the community, helping farmers, benefiting the economy in multiple ways. All those type things, folks are really concerned about these days. Especially there's studies on millennials and Gen Zs that really show that they are focused in and concerned with social issues like that. Place is also known as distribution, or channels of distribution. How do you get your product or service to the market? Is it through online channels? Is it through restaurant service at a retail location? We could talk about place and local food. Obviously, if you're a restaurateur, or if you have a food truck, or if you're a caterer, or if you're a personal chef, whatever your food business model is, that's kind of like the place that you would be selling the local food, right? So a lot of different ways to do that, and we can get into a lot of things. So I'll end on promotion here and go to this next little slide here. I thought this was kind of cool. Promotion, marketing, all these different things make up your marketing and your brand, right? A brand is basically, your brand is the perception people have of your business. Basically, brand is a perception. It's a feeling. It's it's not anything concrete. You have a logo, but that's still not your brand. That's your logo. Your brand is how people feel about your business, right? So all of these things make up your marketing of your business and create your brand too. If you go high end, certain feeling. If you have a food truck, it's different than if you have, a fancy restaurant with dining and all that stuff. So all that kind of comes together to create your plan. But promotion is where you're messaging the customer and you're telling them, hey, we have this stuff, come buy it from us. So there's a lot of different ways to send your message to a customer. Several are here, from personal selling to advertising to guerrilla marketing, digital marketing, which includes social media and email marketing and things like that. All these different avenues for promotion you would want to incorporate the fact that you have local food. And there's different ways that you can promote, your food menus and stories of the farmers and your relationship with the farmers and where the food came from, how it was grown. Is it heritage crop? Is it, a heritage breed protein? Is it, there's just so many stories around food, and people love food. They love pictures of food. They love all that stuff. And that's where, it manifests through your promotion, and your story is told to the audience. So then they come in and they experience your brand and your marketing through your product, price, and place. And hopefully they keep going back and they like what they see, right? So this is all a part of marketing. This is all a part of creating a marketing system that incorporates local food. So very important to be able to capture the audience that you're looking for. I'm going to end on this research that I found with the James Beard Foundation, because I thought that it had some cool ideas in it. This was performed back in February of this year with 300 participants. They're all restaurant owners or chefs or connected somehow to the food industry. What they did say and what they learned from the pandemic and how some things are changing is that a quarter of the restaurants pivoted to meal kits. Okay. 71% offered takeout for dinner and 57% for lunch. So I think we all know that takeout was like, a big pivot for everybody. And also the fact that folks started using DoorDash and other courier services to get delivery of restaurant products to their home. 42% offered surveys. 42% of the restaurants offer outdoor dining. I know plenty of restaurants actually built outdoor dining during the pandemic, and a little over half have indoor with limited capacity, so they can spread out. And 31% began providing special culinary experiences like pop-ups or private catering. And lastly, takeout was rated the most popular pivot amongst the group's diners, and home delivery being the least favored. Although I believe I've seen a trend up in home delivery. So these are the last ideas I'm going to leave you with. These are kind of like height of the pandemic ideas, or the result of the pandemic, I should say, because restaurants had to find a way to continue their partnerships with local farms, and new and inventive partnerships were made between farmers and restaurants. So some of these ideas, the first one they got here is hosting a farmers market as a pop-up at the restaurant, selling CSA style bags or boxes, meal kits, sauces, which were probably locally made sauces, and prepared products and more. So restaurants charged the farms a small fee to participate, but each business gained from the cross promotion among the clientele. The restaurant felt that they owed these farms the support, since they have always supported them over the years. So that was one big thing that you saw during the pandemic for farmers, is that they saw all their customers close. And of course, they were panicking when they're, especially if a big part of their business was selling to restaurants and then all the restaurants closed. Well, in this idea, the restaurant allowed the farmer to come and set up a little market by the restaurant and some of their CSA or food boxes and whatnot. So that was a really good idea. Could be something that could be continued, right? All this revolves around that. It mentions that partnership. And all this is partnerships, right? This is marketing through partnerships and collaborations, which you can help each other out, right? Farmers can send people to your restaurant and say, hey, they're serving my food, and vice versa. Working with local food banks and farms to help connect the two and expedite light produce processing, which remains a large issue for small farms. Also helping farms turn their excess crops into shelf-stable products, like jams, jellies, pickled okra, pickled products, those type things. One thing I have seen as far as light processing goes there's a labor issue amongst restaurants now. And so I have seen restaurants, or I have seen business models that will come in and do the cut and chop prepping for the restaurant of the produce. So it's like a third party service, since they don't have, and they'll do it for a bunch of restaurants, right? We'll do all the cut and chop, boom, you got it. Then you don't have to do all that prep, and you don't have to find somebody to do that. Might be a little bit more expensive, but if they can't find employees to do it, it's kind of it's an opportunity for now. But anyway, it's another interesting service. Partnering with local fisheries and oyster farms to create a frozen meal to distribute to local food pantries. Facilitating an online farmers market where people can shop and add on to their purchased meal kits, and offering from local farms and food businesses. So that's actually a really good idea. Another thing a restaurant can do is be a host site for a farmer CSA, sort of like in the first idea, where people order the CSA online and they can pick it up from this restaurant, right? And the fact that this farmer's regular customers come and pick up their CSAs from this restaurant, eventually they're going to stop and eat, and they will eat multiple times there, right? So that partnership could be mutually beneficial. And also the chef could probably highlight the CSA box by putting some stuff from the restaurant in there somehow. So it could be a collaboration and work together. Opening an incubator kitchen to help local chefs start their businesses. A lot of chefs have excess kitchen capacity. So they're not using, like, for instance, when I owned a restaurant, my big service period was lunch. It was a deli. And so we did 70% of our business at lunch, and 20% was catering, and maybe 10% was pick up after 5. So I still leased that space for 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. I could have, then maybe leased out my kitchen, subleased it, let people use it as a ghost kitchen, let folks use it as a incubator kitchen to learn and have like a little small business started out of it, a food truck or whatever, right? So a lot of different things you can do, and incorporate local foods in that as well. And then during the last year, many chefs pivoted immediately to providing support to the local community with focus on food insecurity. And they were able to get out and help feed people. There's a lot of grants and money floating around for that. I don't know if a whole lot of it is left, but probably still some out there, and something to consider. Way to support local farmers by using their produce in the boxes that go to the needy folks that are food insecure. And lastly, here we got many restaurants pivoted meal kits and virtual events and fundraisers. Actually was involved in a virtual event where a package, a 2-person package of a meal was sent to the customer. It cost $130. They got a bottle of wine, they got 2 meals, and they got kind of a recipe card. But what they did is they held that meal kit, and then at a certain time, maybe they got the kit on Friday, and that Saturday night they would go online to a webinar such as what we're doing today, and the chef would be there, and the chef would work with them as they cook together, all together, right? And then of course they had their meal and they were able to interact with the chef, and he showed them exactly how they do it, and they cooked together. And so really cool idea. We did one like that last year, and it was very successful. But that's an example of a virtual event. And of course you could put local produce in the boxes that go to the houses. So that's just a few I thought which were really neat ideas that were COVID related, but also local food related, that I thought that folks could utilize. So we are coming up just after an hour on this presentation. Hope everybody enjoyed it. We will be posting this presentation later at this website, SBDC. So if you have anybody you think would be interested in it, you can go there and watch it on YouTube. Also, if you need to or would like to contact me for any purpose, my email address there is below. And if you're interested in, again, receiving SBDC services, some business consulting, whether it's, working on marketing issues for your restaurant, or maybe bookkeeping or some accounting or access to funding for the restaurant, be glad to be a help and see what we can get in and be of service. Again, I wanted to thank Ansley Turnblad for being with us today and sharing with us a little bit about Fresh on the Menu and Certified SE, which are two great programs with the Department of Agriculture. And really appreciate her taking her time out to do that. So with that, we'll go ahead and end, and feel free to shoot me any questions by email. And I hope everyone has a very nice weekend. Take care.